on Saturday night to watch it before Kenny.
Welcome back. For the afternoon, as I said, we've got some fascinating topics all afternoon, not only this next one on tablets, but we're also going to be talking about avoiding the great invisibility syndrome for mobile banners. We're going to have I think, a very exciting bake-off among mobile solution providers, all pitching their best ideas to Quaker Oats for a new product rollout they're going to have. And then we're going to end today talking about one of my favorite sports, which is second screening, something I think is going to come up in our next panel, and the ways in which mobile is being used, especially with TV, and how to leverage it. Before we start this panel, we really literally just got new research in this morning from Pew about tablet use. And these are just sort of the raw stats. My colleague Mark Walsh has written about them on MediaPost.com today. You can get more from there. But one of the things that Pew is seeing is that within just a year and a half in market, the iPad, which is still the overwhelmingly dominant tablet platform, is being used by 11% of U.S. adults. And they are and 77% are using it every day for an average of 90 minutes. Tablet use is being used 90 minutes every day for those who are touching it. And then just in terms of content usage, 53% are using them for news, to look at news. 54%, which is the leading use, is email. And then followed by social networking at 39%, gaming at 30%, reading books at 17%, and looking at movies and videos at 13%. Obviously, when we, obviously, as we've just seen a couple of times today, referenced the great Mary Meeker slide showing this is probably the fastest adopted technology that we've seen in our lifetime, even outpacing mobile itself. So the ways in which brands come at this, of course, they have a recent lesson. When the app model emerged just a few years ago, one of the first things we heard from many agencies was that all their brands were coming in demanding to have their app. What was their app strategy for the iPhone and for Android? Several years later now, we have another platform, also working apps, more sophisticated and larger apps. But do brands belong here in the same way they belonged on mobile smartphones? What is an app strategy? Should there be an app strategy? And what do we know about how people are using tablets so that brands can better understand where and how they slip into the mainstream and into the stream of nightly usage, as we've seen, it spikes every night. To take up the lead on this topic, I've asked David Catalano, who's the president and co-founder of the Modea agency, which has done work for HTC, for Verizon, for Lennox, and for Chiquita. It's a creative agency located in Blacksburg, West Virginia, which is well off the beaten path. But it also won Ad Age's Small Agency of the Year award this year, and it also is conveniently located atop a Starbucks, isn't it?
That's correct.
That's right. I saw a street view. I saw a street view of your agency, and it's right on top of, conveniently located on top of a Starbucks. Please welcome David Catalano.
Thank you very much, Steve. And West Virginia is a beautiful, wonderful state, but Modea is not from West Virginia. We're in Virginia. So yeah. So thank you so much. So what we'll do is just run through really briefly some quick introductions. John, you want to give us a real quick rundown?
Sure. So John V. I run a company called Skyrocket. We're a mobile entertainment studio, been around for a decade, Intel-backed, and we work with media companies and brands to help expand their current experiences, campaigns, or properties into the mobile space. And for us, mobile's not a handset, it's a lifestyle. So the tablet, wherever the consumers are, we try and help build new experiences.
Hi, my name is Dave Martin. I run the media department at Ignited. Ignited is a full-service agency in Los Angeles specializing in digital. We have a lot of entertainment clients, so we have Universal Pictures, NBC, Bravo, Oxygen, Sci-Fi USA, G4, E, Style, Golf, Versus. So we do a lot of video, and we've been running mobile campaigns for 6 years now.
Hi, I'm Tracy Mankin from Realtor.com. I run product management and design for the flagship site. We are probably one of the oldest real estate brands online and definitely one of the largest.
Hi, I'm David Gill, Vice President of Mobile at Nielsen. And we look at mobile as sort of a horizontal business unit across the way we're formally divided, which is what people watch and what people buy. Obviously, mobile and tablets have unique experiences in each one of those groups.
Hi, I'm Mike Fisher. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Coldwell Banker, the oldest national real estate brand, 105 years, actually founded down the street, 57 Sutter, so if you want to swing by, there's a Cleaners there now. I handle all the marketing, including the web platform for Coldwell Banker.
Great, thank you guys. Steve, we've talked a little bit today about just some of the usage patterns, and what I want to do is dive in a little bit deeper into tablet usage, and specifically as it compares to smartphones. And so, Dave, if we could start with you and just kind of share just some overall information about how are tablets being used beyond maybe what's been shared already today.
Yeah, and in preparation for this, I do have a new tablet. Looks different from the other people's tablets, but it's sort of a 1.0 beta prototype. It's actually got bookmarks. Find it very, very useful, though. So I thought I'd been listening to the discussion all morning, and I have 4 data points to touch on, and sort of non sequiturs between them. But I thought each one of them kind of touches on a few different things that we've seen today. The one was actually, so I just noticed about Steve's comment from the Pew study. The tablet. So one of our research studies is called a Connected Device Playbook. Really, really deep dive on tablet behavior. And one of the data points out of that was that 80% of tablet owners are using their devices for actions previously completed on a laptop. And when you talk about email and social media and things like that, that's a huge number, I think. And so there is definitely a big replacement thing going on right now with regard to laptops and PCs. The second most replaced device, by the way, is portable game consoles. So when you talk about gaming, it's absolutely relevant for the Sonys and Nintendos of the world to keep an eye on this tablet space. The second point is maybe a little bit out there, but I think it's very important when we talk about the use case for tablets. 60% of tablet users are exclusively, as far as network connectivity, 60% are exclusively on Wi-Fi. So all these things about the tablet is used in the household, and it seems to be this household device. Some of that has to do with technology, right? You literally can't, 60% of people can't take it out in the wild and use it on a street or in a store, or without setting up Wi-Fi hotspots and that kind of thing. So I think that's actually driving some of that behavior. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. The third point is around the session time. So I love this term that was used earlier today around snackable content. And the other term I've heard from my friends at Yahoo is this micro boredom incidents, which tends to be what mobile is all about. But in terms of data sessions, in terms of time spent doing various things on the tablet, some differences between smartphone and tablet is 13% of tablet users use their devices for under 15 minutes in terms of the period of time, whereas that number is 55% for smartphones. So it's a very big delta between the time per session that people are spending. So for marketers, that really means on smartphones, you got to really get to the point. Maybe there's a little bit more creative license on the tablet, right, to create a richer experience.
You said that was 15 minutes for tablets?
For under 15 minutes, it's 13% of the population on tablets.
And for smartphones?
55%.
Okay.
So more than half smartphone sessions are 15 minutes or less.
Right.
Just perhaps not surprising, right? And then the last number, and I'll be quiet, is around shopping. So we're doing a lot of work with retailers lately. And there's this concept of, we always get asked, is a tablet going to be a shopping device or a device used at retail? And as I was thinking about this morning, and I will get to the data point, I promise, it occurs to me that the mobile phone, the smartphone, is kind of a device for shopping at retail. The tablet is more of a device for shopping in general. Right? So it's this beautiful sort of experience that brings retail to life on a little bit bigger screen size. So the questions around how many people take their tablet and their smartphone into a store, into a retail environment, or running errands. And for smartphones, and I classified this as never, so people say they've never done this. Smartphones is only 6%, so 94% of people have their smartphones with them when they're shopping and running errands. The number for tablets is 56%. So well over half of people who own these devices say they never take them into a retail environment. So I think a very big deal when it comes to marketing, not just for retailers, but for manufacturers of goods and brands as well.
Great. Yeah, later in just a few minutes, I want to certainly talk more about the retail and e-commerce aspects of tablet. But one of the interesting things that you said, and certainly the statistics show that the usage at home. But I think Tracy, with the Realtor.com app is one that works both iPad and iPhone. And what can you share as far as the usage patterns on your app?
Yeah, so our app for the iOS, we run an app for the Apple side of the house and then an app for the Android side. Our iOS app is literally the same app for use on either tablet or phone. We are definitely a browsing experience more than a transaction experience. Raise your hand if you've bought a house off your app, off your phone. No, I don't think so. But the browsing is critical, and it's using the GPS capabilities of either the tablet or the phone where we're seeing tons of usage. In terms of differences between tablet usage and phone usage, you particularly see it on the weekends where our user base is most likely in their car, in neighborhoods, literally walking around with their tablet, looking at houses, pulling up open houses, wanting to look at the pictures on the inside while they're standing there looking at the outside. To put it in perspective from a numbers point of view, about a third of our Apple usage is on a tablet. The other two-thirds is still on an iPhone. But on a given Sunday afternoon, I will see between 600,000 and 800,000 concurrent events on the tablet, and I will see the same thing on the iPhone. So those tablet users, even though they're only a third of my usage population, are using it twice as hard, so to speak. And they are, in particular, taking advantage of the visual medium that the tablet and the big screen offers and scrolling through pictures. We do 100 million concurrent photos over the course of a weekend and looking at pictures of what they're doing all day long.
Okay, great, thanks. And one of the things that I also want to talk about is just when it comes to tablet strategy, there's a lot of different angles based on the type of brand that you are, whether you're a CPG brand or retailer. And so as we explore that, for a lot of brands, it's about having just producing great content and using the tablet in these these snacking sessions that are taking place and getting their content either repurposed or created specifically for that experience. And so Dave Martin is repurposing existing content, is that a good place to start for brands? What are your thoughts on this?
I think it depends on the brand. I mean, I guess the first point is that I think he sort of made is that every brand should have a content strategy, not necessarily an app strategy or a mobile strategy, but a content strategy. And by content, I mean something compelling that your customers or your future customers care about. Once you have that, then that opens up these other channels, and how to use them becomes a lot less hard to figure out. So in terms of repurposing existing content, something old is never as good as something new. Certainly if people want the ability to watch their favorite TV shows on their tablet instead of on their TV, then giving them that option is a good thing. But I think it's more important to create a unique experience, and we're seeing more and more clients create content, create specific exclusive content for their mobile strategy, for their social strategy, for their tablet strategy.
Great. And John, from prior experience at Endemol and now at Skyrocket, really making great content is, engaging content is really where your background is. What can you share just as far as the guidance that you can give for brands? It's all too often you see brands make attempts at new emerging platforms, be it a smartphone or iPhone or tablets, and just putting things out there that aren't all that good.
Sure. So I think our approach, first of all, is to clarify, because I think a lot of the content creation business and the advertising business is built on siloed experiences. So you create a movie, you create a TV show and an advertising, you create out-of-home advertising, online advertising, TV. We think it's now moving nicely where it's this mobile, i.e. connected experience, to your point. So we think about, a lot of the time when we're brought in to think about mobile strategy, is really thinking about brand strategy and core to the brand. And we think it's a fantastic time for innovation. So we've done a lot of these brand panels, and I think a framework that came out that may be useful for people in the audience is 3 different buckets. So the first bucket is business, we call, which would be Realtor.com or Coldwell, and that's not a sort of if, it's sort of a how and when. If your customers are moving and have usage patterns in a certain direction, then you want to build an experience, and the best experience, if you're a bank, if you can take pictures with the device and do checking and add new features, optimize the platform. That's sort of bucket number 1 for brands, because I think sometimes it's blurred between the product experience and the marketing experience. Bucket number 2 is marketing. So our ambition is that mobile, in theory for now, i.e. connected experiences, has a seat at the planning table as early as possible, so that the ideas are being baked in and not necessarily just repurposed banner ads, but they're organic to the medium. So building off a original creative TV spot, the tablet's such a big, rich canvas that you can really create fantastic things, and hopefully moving forward in 2012, 2013, we'll see campaigns that are anchored on the mobile devices or a tablet to have that rich experience and going back to television. And then the third area, which we're very passionate about in terms of branded content or innovation, is innovation. So we think it's a great time where traditionally as a brand, you were restricted in putting your advertising into other publisher properties, but we think now with the tablets and the smartphones, it's a great time to really dial everything back and think about your consumer and go, what experience, which could be a new product extension, or it could be a new marketing extension, understanding that with a house, people aren't going, you get a DR reference, and it's like, I will buy that house now. It could take a year. We've been in the market for a house for a year and a half, and we probably still will be for another year and a half.
Who's your agent? I'm sorry.
I'm not going to get a fight on the phone. Individual, like we're solo, me and my wife. So I think in that third bucket, is there an experience that's engagement, coming back to your question, an engaging experience, which we in the content side, which is where I've generally come from, would just call content, and on the advertising side is an engaging, ongoing platform for consumer engagement or whatever. It's like a long title, which is basically content. So generally advertising has heartbeats, so it's like in a campaign, out of a campaign, in a campaign, out. So on the third innovation one, either for new growth of your business line, a new product that you can build, think about how your consumers are using it beyond maybe your core product that you could add value. And the other one is their entertaining experience. Maybe they're really big around movies or music or sports or friends or lifestyle or travel that you can create that has a relevance if you're a travel company, a car company, or if people are relocating for real estate, that you can create as an ongoing experience that you fuel with marketing, but can be more like content. So that's our framework for looking at the space.
Okay. In that second bucket, when you're talking about specifically a marketing and you talk about campaigns that are on and then off again, what type of guidance do you give your clients as far as their desire to create a tablet application or experience specifically for a campaign, and what the implications of that are when that campaign is shut off and then on again?
Sure. So I think, like everything in any business, is if you're going to do something, do it properly. And I think a lot of the tablet and mobile strategies that came out originally for some of the clients we work with came out of media campaigns, where it was like, oh God, we've got to quickly have something that works on mobile. And a lot of those are being unwound now to come back and really be ground up and top down to say what should we really be doing, and that goes back to core strategy. So an example, if anyone went to South by Southwest last year, Chevy did a really great activation on the ground and the social, but there wasn't much in the mobile space. So that would be an example where you could, maybe not tablet specific, but tablet could have an angle, but mobile, tablet, definitely mobile experience, because we're all running around to shows and want to check out the best things. So if Chevy stands for music, you can create an experience on the iPad and the tablet, use activation at a South by Southwest where they're spending tons of dollars around an event to pop it, and then have other pops during the year to keep fueling the fire of an experience. So it's like creating content. So anyone who's created content, you need to plan it, develop it, have a marketing plan, and then keep sustaining it. So it's just each side getting used to what the other side, the media companies are getting used to being brand managers, and the brands are getting used to being, in some cases, content producers. And it's just, both sides can do it. It's just sort of helping the conversation between the two sides.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks. And Mike, you were one of the first two companies that got into iAds in in the early days, and some of the metrics that we saw and read about back then were just really off the charts. I have an assumption a lot of people were clicking on it just to really experience it to some extent. But could you share a little bit of your experience that you've had there, and how you relate that to at this time with on tablets as well?
Yeah, we had kind of that content idea, which is video. We're very into video. We think video is a great opportunity to sell homes, to market agents, to market communities. So we've been investing in video on our site for quite a long time. When the tablet came along, the first thing we saw when we saw the screen is like, oh, it's perfect for video. So we wanted to create a tablet application that incorporated video where our mobile app didn't. So we kind of went in a different direction with the tablet, and then once we came out with the tablet app, we decided that because of the incredible usage of tablets and how it was exploding, that would make a great advertising platform. So we went in with iAd. We were the second company to do an iAd for iPad. And so it worked out really well from us from the standpoint of kind of jumping into the tablet with everything and just trying to figure out how people are using it. And you had asked just for some of the stats. We have tap rates around 1%. People are engaging with our iAd over a minute. And that has been a pretty consistent number for the last 6 months. So we've been really happy with that. Downloads and conversions of the app is a little below what we thought, but the idea was really engagement. We wanted to do an advertising unit that engaged consumers with the download kind of secondary. Now, we also worked with Google with AdMob as well, so we kind of had two creative units going, and we tested an embedded video unit with AdMob, and we actually saw that was maybe a better execution for downloads. So we kind of worked both, try to figure out what would make great sense for us, but because we're a brand, because we want to engage people, we are a national television advertiser, engagement still is important for us. So we were pretty excited how it was all working together. We learned some lessons. We'll obviously try to incorporate them into future planning, but for us it was a very good experience.
Great. So Dave, what can you share just as far as the Nielsen Company's background on just iAds and AdMob and just the opportunities that would give a brand for getting their content out on tablets without maybe getting into full-blown applications?
Right. I guess the one thing I'll point out, be interesting to see the results on iAds. So we partnered with Apple to run ad effectiveness studies across iAds. So cool thing about it is they're directly comparable to television ads. So when you look at normative data, you can definitely see lift and all the standard kind of metrics around effectiveness. But I'd be interested to find out, since you guys did run two, they weren't concurrent campaigns, but you guys are a big advertiser on the iPhone,
Right.
and now on iPad. What kind of differences do you see between the two?
We saw the iPad was a better engagement platform by far.
Right.
And so we actually moved a little bit of money away from iPhone into iPad just to kind of move down that road, because that's where we were seeing most of the. But to your point, we did the study with Nielsen and Apple, and we actually, again, got some of the data, and to that point, we saw general recall up 40% versus internet video ad norms, 76% improvement over brand recall, over 200% message recall improvement over internet video norms, and ad favorability was up 50%. So we saw that, and then versus TV, I think some of the numbers that you were talking about, again, brand recall, message recall, over 300% improvements, ad favorability 300%. So we're pretty happy. It's a great engagement platform. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. People love diving in and messing with it, and that's special. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, and I think that jives with what we've seen in the notion. I think it also is relevant around just the overall experience with the tablet versus the phone, in that more long form, like people might have more time to spend, right, to interact with the ad unit. So I think that probably goes into it as well.
Do you guys, Dave or John, have anything to add on the iAds or the AdMob front?
I mean, just in terms, I think a lot of this gets caught in nomenclature. So iAds are really, as you were saying, like engaging units, which is kind of like if content or an app is meant to be an engaging unit as well. So I think the move of Apple to create this iAd is really, again, around an app, like an engagement app. So a lot of the experiences we'll do, it's like if it's an engaging rich media ad, or how far does it go before it's an app? It's like a really,
Right.
you know what I mean? And some of those first ads were like super long, and they were kind of like it was you had to ask the consumer to do a lot to really engage that much, not with your ones, but some of the other ones.
Thank you.
So, welcome. No, I'm still shopping on other.
Okay.
I want to get good
We'll
deals
work on
later,
that
so I've
after.
got to keep everyone happy.
It's on my app too. It's okay.
So yeah, I think it's generally good for everyone, the iAds and the push, in terms of saying, here's how, if you invest more, like when the TV, with Nielsen, like TV ratings, I used to work in television, move from content to commercial. It forces the commercials that people were putting onto the networks to be better. So I think the same thing with Apple and iAd. If you force people to, okay, let's not be lazy and just do banners, which we took from the web, how can we do something that's more engaging, and then seeing the benefits of doing something that's more engaging, getting more towards content or higher quality advertising that kind of is more like content. So I think they did a great job pushing it in that direction.
I think one other thing I want to mention, real estate also is the benefit of, I just looked at this yesterday, real estate's, on the mobile web, real estate's the #1 year-over-year growth category. So I think there was also some halo effect to the fact that people are doing this more, right?
Just to make a comment on iAds or mobile ads or tablet ads. So I think, if you think back to when advertising started, we really were buying on a cost per view, right? Because you were guaranteed to watch the commercial or close to it because you couldn't fast forward through them. There was only 3 channels to switch to. When you bought on a cost per point or CPM, you were really buying cost per view. So, and I think where digital sort of fell off the road and mobile followed down the same road was we started hoping people engaged with or clicked our ads. That hope has been the reason that digital and mobile is still a tiny part of our marketing budget. Hope is not something you want to bet your business on. So the more we think about a guaranteed engagement or a guaranteed exposure or a guaranteed view of an ad or a movie trailer or some other marketing message or an application that has compelling content, that's when mobile and other channels will command bigger advertising spends. I think iAd did a pretty good job of building out a compelling, I agree it's more of an app than an ad, but the way they sell it I don't necessarily think is the way marketers need and want to buy those engagements. They sell on a CPM plus you pay a CPC. So you pay $10 CPM and then $2 every time someone clicks. So if your ad is really, really effective, you pay a much higher price, which I'm not sure I agree with that. But I think we need to think about what are you really getting out of that investment, and the more we start to think about a guaranteed engagement or view, the more value that we can bring to these new platforms.
One thing, we did the Zippo application for Zippo, which is in that third bucket of innovation. And with to your point, like, do you pay for the cost to drive people to it as well as the creation of it, et cetera, and how do you blend the metrics? So that's now 17.4 million users worldwide and 0 paid media. So that's an extreme case where, for whatever reason, it got caught in the crest of every new handset. We're doing 150,000 new a week just because. But I think it speaks to the point of if you do create, and it wasn't, I wish it was more expensive in terms of being the original production, but it's been a great example. I think if you take the time to create something fun, the audience goes, thank you very much. It doesn't actually light a cigarette, but it provides something fun because they stand for live music. So the kids are now holding it up, and in the shows, like the dads would hold up, whatever, us as dads would hold up the physical lighter because they're banned in most arenas. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, and the other one, I think, thinking about video going way back, television and all the ratings, it was again the advertisers creating the content, which is going back to the beginning. And I think the rise of video, 41% across different platforms. And you mentioned trailers. So for us inside the company, trailers are like on the pedestal because at the same time it's content and advertising. You rush to the theater early to see the advertising. So we have that like on a pedestal as how we can all have that as a bar to try and reach.
Yeah, I suspect when you and Zippo created the app, you had no idea really where it was going. And really a question I have for the panel, and I guess I'll direct this at Tracy next, is just what are those, kind of going in for Realtor.com apps, kind of going in, what were your assumptions as far as what the cost was going to be to get it out, but then the more significantly to maintain it, not across all of the different flavors of Android and of course iPhone to iPad as well.
Yeah, Yeah, so I'll hit this from a couple of points of view. I think one of the first decisions that we had to deal with was mobile web or app strategy. And when we were talking about this a little bit before the panel, I'll be the first to admit I do not have a mobile optimized site. I'm not really proud of it, but it's because we went down the app route because that's where Apple's consumers were taking us. We started with an Apple app, and the core criteria for us was not around anything more than following where my next set of home buyers were going to be. And when you look at Gen X and when you look at millennials and they are going mobile, and I needed to extend my brand down onto that platform and essentially extend the same experience. It's just get it to work better and take advantage of the GPS capabilities and the other things that the phone and ultimately the tablet could deliver. So 2+ years ago, it wasn't really much of a question for us. We were going to build apps. Fast forward 2 years later, it's not an inexpensive proposition. I now have a standalone development team of about just shy of a dozen between developers and QA. We are perpetually double developing. We will develop on the iOS and turn right around and do the same features on Android, and we are ping-ponging back and forth between two apps. And I still don't have a solution for my BlackBerry users. So it is not inexpensive, and it is something for you to stop and think about. For us, it was no question to go down the app route because my users are going to move off of the internet onto apps more and more and more and more. And I'm going to see them probably primary on tablets, I would guess 4 or 5 years from now. So it wasn't a question for us to go there, but it is not inexpensive.
On that, I think that's a great approach, and hopefully other clients in the room are listening. Like, if you do it properly, because the other thing to mention, we're a big believer, disruption's a horrible word, but innovation we prefer. Where if you look, has anyone used the company Hotel Tonight? No one? Okay. It's a one person. It's like a last-minute remnant hotel site, which is awesome. So 20% of all hotels are booked same day, which was surprised. So they fulfill that market where each day in all the cities they operate in, there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hotels with fantastic prices because they're fulfilling that need. So I think the other space is, unless you do a really good job, and for a company your size, 12 people in theory is a fair investment for the returns you're getting. Someone else will come along who's some new company you've never heard of. Initially you go, oh, how cute. And then within 2 years, they're the brand that's going public for $2 billion, and you're going, what happened? So now that doesn't happen in every case, but it's certainly the cost with the cloud matched with the sort of the app economy and the device access from more and more people and $39 tablets, et cetera, is making that reality of innovation / disruption very real, where for someone else to get in Silicon Valley 12 people to do, or 20 people or 50 people to do the ultimate real estate app, and do a city search erosion. Everyone remembers a city search, not really. So I think that's also a thing you need to keep aware of. Who are the competitors that you may not see as competitors?
Yeah, I'll add one more thing in from kind of the design and creative side. We also took the approach of carving off our design team and our development team. It was not my .com team who were looking at the .com site going, how can I make this work on a telephone? That is not the approach that we took. We actually took kind of a white paper team and said, here's a designer who's got skills in this area and understands. I think someone on an earlier panel talked a lot about how you have to make hard choices. It is making the choices about what the core tasks are that your user is trying to accomplish, and that's what you're putting into your mobile app. So it was a from-scratch build-out with a designer, a development team, QA team, and they started from a white piece of paper.
One of the, for any, Tracy, you were an earlier adopter of, in your kind of app strategies, but for brands out there that are just getting started now, there's been just a tremendous amount of advancement that's taken place in the HTML5 app or kind of mobile-enabled web application standpoint. And so what I'd like to talk about just briefly is, for somebody just getting started, do they go iOS and Android, or iOS or Android first, depending on their demographics of their users? Or who wants to, Dave or Mike, you guys want to talk about, at this point in time, what are some of those considerations that you may want to make?
Sure. For us, it's just hard to develop on Android, and that's just a reality that we have to deal with. So we've been much more aggressive on the Apple side than we have been on the Android side, just from a standpoint of all the iterations and pieces of hardware you got to work on, and it's never perfect, ever. So that for us has been a big struggle as we go forward, and so we've kind of made, the decision that the majority of the investment goes into the Apple OS.
Apple OS?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about for, Dave or John, have you guys had any experience as far as advising clients on when they're going to do mobile apps using like an Adobe Air or Appcelerator, one of these platforms that, write the code on one platform, publish in theory to multiple? Do you guys have any experience pushing that angle?
I think our view on those ones is they seem very sexy and are often very fundable, because people go, that's fantastic. Why do you want to build on multiple platforms? It's really costly. But we've only ever used them for prototyping. We don't think it's ready for a multitude of reasons to roll out, a core product of a brand. And then in terms of you doing everything on iOS, the stats we've seen is it's still 97% usage, so I think you're fine. In terms of...
So I can jump in on a couple of things. I really think it's dumb and mechanic as it sounds. You got to know who your users are and where they're coming from. Maybe we're an anomaly, I don't know, but I'm 60-40 iOS, Android. So about 60% of my user base is iOS, but 40% is Android. And my Android app's only been out since last November. So thank you, Google. They're promoting the heck out of it, and my users are coming along with that.
Our Android app is doing well. It's just that we tend to do less updates just because
That's the
tough.
expense.
That's the
expense. And we were talking earlier, my development team ping-pongs. We do an iOS release, we do an Android release. We do an iOS release, we do an Android release. And it just makes you feel like you're moving slow because you're basically building things twice.
I think I'll just throw a contrarian opinion a little bit in. I do think that there's going to be, I think Q4 is going to be big for Android on tablets. And I think if we see an adoption curve, anything like we saw in the smartphone market, I think in this circle, it doesn't seem like a big deal, a $700 tablet, so everyone's got iPads, but that's not what most people think, right? And so I think Amazon's going to have a huge Q4, and I actually think that a lot of the other tablet manufacturers are going to come around. So I actually would say that there might be a competitive advantage for people that can understand Android and understand how to develop for Android and what works on Android going into 2012.
That's
yeah,
great.
I think there's two races happening in terms of tablets as we see it. One is a top-down, like smart, fancy people down, and the other one is general people, mass people up, which is sort of readers versus iPads and tablets. And I agree. I'm pretty bullish on the mass up, because if you talk about user behavior, I'm a reader. I'm more magazines, newspapers, books when I can, business books, but I'm not like a regular fiction reader. But a lot of people around the world are. And I think the adoption took me by surprise of e-books and e-readers. So I think now when you have a legitimate need, unlike a lot of people with tablets I still see on the plane playing Angry Birds, which is not necessarily a cool reason to have a fancy tablet.
No, but it's a great babysitter, let
it's
me
great
tell
babysitter.
you.
No, we got great for my kids, great for Elmo videos. But I think in terms of the necessity of reading books, and for that audience who read books, and then if you take Amazon's push on commerce, and you take it down that path, and you look at the price again of even the Fire and then the lower end tablets, they're all in a year, they're all going to be fancy, browsable, color, and doing the same thing. Yeah. So I tend to agree.
One more question. I think we're getting close to open QA time. So you talked a little bit about the Kindle Fire, Dave, and my question was going to be, does anything else matter? It sounds like the panel's pretty optimistic that yes, indeed, we can expect, even though Android took a while to get going, but has really kind of started to hum along on the smartphone side, we can expect something similar to be happening on the tablet. I know some of the stats are talking about maybe 2015 before you're getting to an inflection point or something to that. But one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier is just, and I know it's talked about earlier today, was just the right screen size for the given task. And so Dave, question for you, the Kindle Fire is going to be launching on a 7-inch screen. So 7 inches isn't something you can put in your pocket, as Steve Jobs said. And it's certainly not something that can replace a laptop, as most people are finding that tablets are starting to do in a consumer space. So where does this 7-inch screen fit, and how do brand marketers get their head around it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think things eventually will probably converge around the 10-inch size, 10.1 or whatever it is. I think, but it's not going to hurt adoption in the short term. We also see the Nook color with really, really good numbers. And one thing, just from a marketing perspective, iPads tend to be much more sort of male-dominated. All the e-readers, I mean, e-readers in general, 60% female. So if you want to reach females right now on a web browser, e-reader seems to be the place to be, probably in the first quarter.
Right. And so since the Nook has Angry Birds, it's officially a tablet, right?
Right, that's right.
So, all right, so Steve?
Questions? I wanted to ask about app discovery on the tablet, since that became one of the, especially when the first wave of branded apps emerged on smartphones. One of the key challenges was getting it discovered. I'm curious if the rules are any different when it comes to app discovery on the tablet from what we saw on smartphones. Is it a very expensive proposition? Are there different routes to discovery on the tablet for apps than there were on smartphones?
That's a good one for us. I think our general view, so we've been around the mobile space since 2001, like in the pre-Apple era, and I think we're now in the post-Apple era, at least post-Apple dominated era. So we think things are now looking a little bit more like they were pre-Apple, as in there's, in 2012, you're starting to see a lot of the carriers coming back again with more force on app stores. You've got every other device OEM coming out with a video offering, and it's all getting fragmented again. Like, what do I build for? Who do I work with? So I think having the expertise, our company, I think the only company to have direct connects with all the US carriers. We think those relationships that have been very good, helping content discovery and application discovery, again, pre-Apple, are going to be useful again. So working out if a Samsung has a big promotion and your app could be a great feature within their promotion because it reaches the same demo. And I used to do this, I worked at AT&T, and we had different campaigns. If we wanted to reach women, we would reach out to magazines or brands that matched our demo, and suddenly they would be in a national campaign or in store or going out to an email database of 10 million people. So I think working with partners who are already, we did a campaign and launched a music platform, and we were part of a Nokia campaign of $100 million around the world. We didn't pay a penny. So I think partner marketing comes back again. So smart, working out who you can align with to reach your goals, in addition to good old paid media.
We see on the metered Android smartphone panel, we see about 20% penetration to the Amazon third-party store.
How are you, Tracy and Michael, how are your tablet apps being discovered?
In our
Any
case,
differently from
no, honestly, no. Pretty traditional methods. Submit them up to the stores. We're in all 3 stores: the Android store, iTunes Marketplace, and then the Android Market. In our case, we have the benefit of being able to cross-promote off our site. So we try to drive as much organic traffic as we can, and we consider our mobile experience as an extension of our site's experience, and so it's really a companion marketing strategy off our homepage, off property pages, that kind of thing. We haven't done that much paid advertising to drive downloads. The one thing I will say is build a killer app, because the stores, the algorithms around where you rank in the stores, and we're in a super competitive category. It's not just a function of downloads. It's quality, it's your star rating, it's the comments from your users, and be responsive.
And you guys have done a fantastic job as checking out the reviews.
Yeah.
Great reviews on your app, and that's impressive.
Yeah, but also, I mean, like Nook is the new Nook is launching imminently, and I know they're looking to co-promote, do marketing partnerships with anyone who reaches women. So, I mean, Google, we just got featured this week in the Android App Store, and it's one of our own apps. So it's tiny, but we're there amongst 50 people because we happen to speak to the Google guys and get to know them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's there, and it's free. You just have to do some legwork.
David, do we know if there's, do we have any metrics yet on the difference in terms of engagement, or any basic metrics between a 7-inch and a 10-inch screen? Are we seeing any changes, any behavioral changes?
Yeah, so I know the 7-inch are dominated by the e-readers. to this point. So I don't know, Dave, if you've
Yeah,
got
it's a
additional
good question.
stats.
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a great question.
Yeah. I imagine sometime, well, once we see the Kindle in the market for
Right.
a while, I think we're going to start seeing that.
Yeah, the Kindle Fire is really going to be a device to keep an eye on as far as introducing a tablet at that low end of the market that has it's not going to have the gyroscope, it's not going to have the camera, but I still carry around an iPad 1 because I don't need a camera or a gyroscope. So I think that the mass market is certainly going to look at that device a little bit differently than maybe some of the other tablets to date.
David, panel, this is the first panel we've ever had 3 Davids on. I mean, ask a question and 3 heads go up. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you guys.